would like to ask you a few questions. So, I mean, today there have very big debates regarding model risk and the uncertainty linked to models per nature. And regulators are thinking, at least some of them, it's kind of emerging trend to really put capital buffer, to compensate for that model risk. How do you think about that? What's your view on model risk, and how do you think that banks should apprehend the concept of model risk?
Okay. First, I appreciate very much that banks and also the regulators start thinking about model risk, because this is really an issue. The question is, why do they start now after the crisis? But at least we are starting to think about that. Yeah. What I would appreciate is that we develop a coherent approach to model risk, so that we really start with the definition, because it is very popular to talk about model risk, and everybody knows a little bit, I do it like this, but there is no consistent approach. So my suggestion would be to start thinking, well, on one hand you have the model, and within a given model you have risks. These are basically the parameters of the model and the parameterization. Yeah. And another view on model risk is also that you can have a completely different model.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. This can also be beyond the mathematical approach. Mm-hmm. Look what Schäfrin is saying when he's talking about culture and psychology. This is for sure also in a kind of meta model. Psychology should also be included. Mm-hmm. But I think when we are speaking now about model risk, then we are interested in the more narrow sense of model risk. So let me be precise again. Model risk is a risk of misvaluation and producing figures which are not aligned with the reality as an outcome of a mathematical model. Mm-hmm. So we have the parameters and the model itself. And the first thing everybody can do is really to poke holes in the model in terms of parameterization. Yeah. Because what we still have, and during the crisis it was even worse, we have very complex models, and if you only have the model in your toy world, then you can model everything.
Yes.
But when it comes to set the parameters for the model, then it is sometimes very difficult, because you don't have the data and the information to parameterize a complex model. And if you do not investigate this, then you come up with the figure, but you don't know, or you are not reporting the uncertainties which are inherent in the model. So this is really very important. Sometimes I think that there are too many modelers in the bank working, and not enough statisticians who are able to have a feeling to tell us what you can do actually with the model and what are the boundaries of the model. Mm-hmm. And then, so this is related to parameter uncertainty. The other thing is that you should at least think about different models. Now, of course, in practice, even if you implement one model, this is very cost intensive. Mm-hmm. So you cannot say, well, and now let's try another model. Yeah. But, and actually I don't have an answer regarding that. But the fact is, and this is also the link to the psychology, to the behavioral finding side, that when you have implemented a model which is quite expensive, and we have very skilled people running the model, then the management usually they don't want to think about the model risk anymore, because they believe, oh, we spend a lot of money, this must be a good model, there cannot be something wrong with the model, because otherwise I made a wrong decision. So this is just my approach. So first try to estimate the parameter uncertainty, and then really think about, can we really model that? So if you come up, if you see that you cannot model something, then it's a question, okay, should I do my business there, or what? Then I have management by intuition. This is also probably not good, but okay, these are related points. I don't have an answer regarding that. Okay, and the regulators, I don't think that they have an assessment of model risks. They try to set hyper-conservative bounds on everything. And as an example, for example, the Basel III CBA, there's this margin period of risk when you estimate the collateralized exposure profiles. And you know that with Basel III, for some derivative portfolios, the margin period of risk is lengthened from 10 to 20 days. This is not wrong, but it is just, roughly speaking, the idea that, okay, where does exposure arise when we have collateralized exposure? Okay, this is related to the margin period of risk. Okay, so let's increase the margin period of risk. But they are not thinking about modeling and what's actually going on there. This is a different thing. You can have a model and say this is not a perfect model. So set all the all the parameters should be set at a very conservative value. But this is not model risk assessment because you take the same model again.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, that's true. That it's about model uncertainty. There's also model risk linked to wrong implementation of a model, or as you said, wrong use of a model being used outside of its boundaries.
Exactly.
These are model risk upon which you can act precisely, but there is model risk that you have to live with because it is linked to uncertainty, and there could be a lot of volatility in model risk depending upon the alternative models that you are considering. So what is a good alternative model? If we would know, of course, there would be less uncertainty as well. So it's
and this becomes more and more important because now with the Pillar 2 we really need an absolute risk figure. It's not that you use risk only for your quarterly or monthly or daily reporting and that you see what is the relative shape of my risk, but you really say, okay, this is the absolute level of risk, and I compare it to the available financial resources. And this is where you actually need something where you say, I trust this model, this is credible. This is not possible.
No. Yes, so we are facing indeed very good challenges. Can you maybe summarize in a few words also the main content of the book you recently wrote? What is it all about?
Yes, measurement uncertainty and risk reporting. Yes. So the main points are, let's say twofold. Starting with the observation that we need to do some model risk, and also from my background, it is important to give the management also information, quantitative information about the credibility of a model. That is, simply speaking, we need the confidence intervals of the results. This is really my idea, and I think that this is very important because in physics and in other sciences this is really important. Nobody gives you a point estimate. Okay, and then the tool I think is really appropriate for that is Bayesian statistics, because Bayesian statistics also allows you to incorporate expert knowledge and combine it with empirical data. And we need expert knowledge. And so in Bayesian statistics you have the expert knowledge, you have statistics, you have empirical data, and you combine it and come up with a figure where you not only have a point estimated but probably a whole distribution of answers. And it is also described in the book by some authors who did research in behavioral finance and expert elicitation, how you deal with this, because it is of course not easy if you have not only one figure, because one figure you can implement it in a traffic light model, green or red. Can I go or do I have to stop? But life is not that easy, and of course the information also for decision making is then much more complex, and this is described in the book.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Klaus.